Let me take this opportunity and greet all the supervisors of studies, greet the IST conveners and all the probationers in the connection together with all those who are in training, both the deacons and also those who are in the word and sacraments. We gather this year under difficult circumstances of the COVID-19, and I do pray to God that we will find the courage and the strength to do ministry with all that we will be going through and all that is happening around us and all that has already happened. My prayer is that even this pandemic, even these circumstances will form and shape our ministry. My name is Waqu. I'm an ordained minister here within the Methodist Church of Southern Africa, serving in the Rubrics circuit. I am the supervisor of studies for the Central Synod. I am excited, and it is an absolute pleasure for me to take you through today the handbook of both the probationers of word and sacrament and the probationers of the diaconate. There are a couple of areas that I would like us to look at, and as such I'm going to ask you to also pull out your handbooks now so that you are in a position to follow. May I begin by indicating that the significance and the relevance of this handbook is to highlight the seamless formation that we offer as the MCSA to all our probationers, whether diaconate or presbytery, from the time you candidate to the time you get to be ordained. It is one journey, yes, with various phases, but it does not mean that it is a broken journey. It is one seamless journey, and these handbooks seek to highlight that. For you, the journey from candidature to seminary is over, and now you are beginning another phase, and some of you have already begun that phase of being in circuit. One of the things that these handbooks seek to highlight is the fact that it is upon you as a probationer to pace yourself and make sure that you get to ordination. The honors is really on you. The best we can do is to assist you in making sure that you hold yourself accountable. And when you have failed then to hold yourself accountable, we turn to the handbook and remind you of things that you needed to do as a probationer. And so, this handbook should be one of the tools that you use for your formation and training. Remember that our formation, our training, is made of the character formation, it is made up of the academic formation, and certainly made up of the spiritual formation. You will notice that when you go through the projects, that they take you through those three elements of our formation. And in all three, you have to perform. You have to be competent in all three. And so, these handbooks, therefore, are a tool to be used by all of you to ensure that you maximize your competence in all these areas. Now, friends, let me take you through then these handbooks. And I'm going to start with those who are being trained for word and sacrament. There are little variances really. It is basically in the number of years that you'll be spending, and of course then in terms of the type of ministry that you will be offering throughout your active ministry. Those who have candidated and are being formed for word and sacrament, now that you have gone through seminary life, it really doesn't mean that your academic competences are going to be left behind. But it does mean that you are going to have to apply whatever you have learned from seminary and integrate it into your life in your circuit ministry. And so it's important, therefore, that you understand page 2 of the handbook. We will assist you in doing this by making sure that when you do your IST projects, when you do your exegesis, you apply the academic expertise that you ought to have learned at seminary. And so please do not leave those skills behind. The theological reflection is as critical when you do your assignments. And my prayer is that all of you will not be shy in displaying your theological understanding, how you integrate the academic with the work that you are doing in your circuit ministry. Secondly, in terms of you being out of seminary now, we expect you to be in a position not only to reflect theologically, but also to be in a position to take that which is academic and integrate it with the practical work that you are doing in your circuit. And you will also see that in the projects that you will be doing. So that's the first thing that I would like to highlight then in terms of this handbook and your journey from seminary into the circuit life. You will then be expected, as you have done at seminary, to continue to be a community within our connection this time, not necessarily just at seminary. So you are in synod and you are still expected to form a community within the synod. And so there's no expectation that you'll be doing your own thing in your own circuit without relating to your peers in other circuits. It is for that reason, therefore, that each synod holds an IST gathering. In fact, there will be a number of gatherings that you will hold each year. And it is important that you attend all of these, because that communal life, that fellowship, is critical in forming you as a minister. And so your IST convener will then meet with you and structure the IST meetings in accordance to this handbook, but of course taking into consideration your particular context. And you must attend all these, and these cannot be less than at least 4 days a year. And it is important that you attend all of these, because they make up the mark that you will get in order for you to be voted at synod. And so, please don't think that it is optional for you to attend these meetings. It is compulsory that you attend these meetings. It is only under special circumstances that would have been discussed by your IST convener as well as your supervisor of studies together with you in order for you to get dispensation. But even with that, you would still have to make up for the work that you would have missed. And so, in these IST meetings, you will also be processing your projects, your assignments. That's why it is important that you take part in this, because part of the assessment is based on peer review. And so your colleagues, your peers, are going to assess your competencies in the areas that you are being tested on. And so it's important then that you take part in this. And once again, your IST conveners as well as your triple S's will structure these in such a way that they suit your context. But I cannot emphasize it any further how important it is for you to be part of this, because that's where you get feedback, that's where you give feedback to others, but also that's where you discuss these projects and enrich one another. And so it's supposed to be exciting when you meet in the ISTs. It's supposed to be enriching. It's supposed to be empowering and equipping. And please don't miss out on that. You will also be expected in terms of your communal life not to only be in fellowship with your peers, but also you will be in fellowship with your fellow congregants. We have what we call the PMCs, the Probationer Mentoring Committee, that you will be part of. And it is important that you meet with your PMC and your triple S together with your IST will then from time to time meet with your PMCs to equip and empower them and explain how these PMCs work. Please do speak to your superintendent to make sure that you have a PMC, because that's where your character is going to be formed. That's where we as EMMU will get a report on how you are doing in terms of your character formation. There are various forms that are being completed, and when you get to the training, you will get to understand these forms. They're called the P forms. And so you have your P2A form that is going to be completed by all those probationers who are in their first year of training. And you will therefore be expected to submit this form through your PMC. And it is critical that we get these. These are submitted twice a year, beginning of the year before the synod and towards the end of the year around October. And so it's important that you take part in your PMCs. You will not be advanced if we don't get your character formation reports from the PMCs. And so please do take note of this, because again, there's progression even in these reports. You get a report as you're about to be recommended for ordination, as you will then get a report as you are about to be ordained. So there are various forms that will be completed by your PMC, and your supervisor of studies will explain how these PMCs are being structured. So it's critical, therefore, that you go through page 4 of the handbook that explains how these PMC reports work. And for those then who will be exiting probation into becoming ordinance, again, there are various forms that need to be completed, and part of that process involves the second quarterly meetings. And that's why it's important, therefore, to be involved in the community, because when the quarterly meeting votes, they are voting on someone whose work they have experienced. When you don't do the work and the quarterly meeting struggles to vote in terms of your readiness for ordination, you will be surprised, because you have not been in community, you have not been with your community. People must get to know you. You must fall in love with interacting with your community. And so I urge you, therefore, to be as involved in this communal life as you have been in the seminary. And so, for those then who are going to go into ordination, the self-assessment is important. Once again, like I said, the onus is on you as a probationer to demonstrate readiness for ordination. And the self-assessment seeks to highlight, therefore, your readiness as you express it in your own words through the self-assessment. And please do stick to the instructions. When it says 500 words, don't give us 300 words and think that that's going to be enough. When we ask for 500 words, we mean 500 words. When we say 300 words, we mean 300 words. When we say 250 words, we mean 250 words. And I would urge you, where there's a need to put in evidence, don't be shy to do that, because that's going to help then the marker to realize that this person has done this work. This person is competent in this work. So don't be shy to sell yourself to the marker so that we can understand your readiness. And in your year of ordination then, there's work to be done. There are January retreats that you'd have to attend, and where you are also going to be reflecting. And it is critical that you attend these seminars as well. And your coordinator for ordination will take you through all of that work. But I'm highlighting the importance, therefore, of this seamless process from your candidature to your ordination, and we will journey with you right through. Now, let me turn to the diaconate. There aren't much differences, honestly, in all that I have indicated. With the IST projects that are tailor-made for the deacons, and you will be directed as to how these are structured. So it's important then that you pay attention to what your IST convener and your SSS will be indicating to you in terms of the projects that you need to do for the year. You are also expected to be part of this communal life, both in your synod as well as in your circuit. Because, after all, you are in the ministry of word and service. who are you going to serve then if you are not in community? And the process then of doing your assignments is exactly the same as with the probationers for presbytery. Where it is necessary, you will then form your own group if you are not the only deacon in your synod. If needs be, your supervisor of studies and your IST convener will put a team together that would assist you in this assessment. But it is important that you follow that process carefully. Now, in terms of exiting and your readiness for ordination, please note that you would have to have finished your academic qualification. And of course then, that for you, because you would not have gone to seminary, it means that there are certain qualifications that you need to have. And these include the following. You would either need to have had the basic certificate in theology if you are in Mozambique, which is called the COVO, or a higher certificate in theology, which is offered by TEC or SMMS for those who candidated before 2018. And you would have to have a diploma in theology, which is offered by TEC if you have candidated after 2018. Or else have a bachelor's degree in theology offered by TEE, or any other institution of higher learning that is recognized by the Methodist Church of Southern Africa, in which case you would need therefore to submit your certificates for valuation by the EMU General Committee. Over and above these academic qualifications, you would need to have Methodist studies, which include Wesley, Polity, and Accounting Plus, because you are being trained for word and service. You need to be a local preacher on full plan before you can be ordained. And of course, then you'd go to the quarterly meetings like the presbyters would do. And so it's important, once again, to be part of your community so that people can then vote for someone that they know. And so the years that you would spend, maximum, is supposed to be about 4 years as a probationer before you can then become an ordinand. And so, again, that journey is dependent on your progress. I also need to indicate that the maximum years then can only be 5 years. Otherwise, you would need to be in conversation with yourself. You'd need to be in conversation, therefore, with the Triple S, so that your case is handled in terms of your own circumstances. Otherwise, it means you are being discontinued after 5 years of your probation. And so it's critical then that you pay attention to that. For the presbyters, the minimum years is 5 years, and yet the maximum years is 7 years. So once again, after 7 years, you shall therefore be discontinued. Let me now tackle the last part of this handbook, the rubrics. Most people think that this is the most horrible part of the handbook, and yet it is the most helpful part of the handbook, because what it does, it tells you exactly what is expected of you. It helps you to be self-disciplined. It also helps you to hold yourself accountable before we even think of holding you accountable. There are various phases then of holding you accountable here. You will be given a caution, a warning, a final warning, and then there's the discontinuance. It is on page 9 in terms of your handbook of the probationers for word and sacrament. And for the word and service, it will be on page 10. But basically, it is the same thing. So let's go through these rubrics. You will notice that if you fail an IST assignment or an exegesis or a trial service or a theological exam, you are not going to be advanced for ordination. If you fail your self-assessment, ordinance, a theological examination, or ordination assignment. And in that case, when you have not been competent in those areas, note what is written in note 1. So in situations where the probationer or an ordinand has failed any of these components listed in number 1, she or he will be allowed to resubmit. In case of an IST assignment, if it was to be a communally determined assessment, the probationer is to resubmit by the end of the IST meeting. If it is to be solely assessed by the DSS or the SSS or the IST convener, then the probationer will be given a week in which to resubmit from receiving the knowledge that they have not been competent. Number 3, please note that in cases of other components, the DSS and the Synod EMU committee will determine the dates of resubmission, which should be before the July EMU General Committee meeting. Number 4, if the resubmission is not successful, it results in a failure of the component and the rubrics fall into place. What that means then is that you are going to be given grace upon grace up until you prove yourself totally incompetent in that area. So you will be asked to resubmit, but if you fail then in the resubmission, it means you have been completely incompetent in that area. We will get to that in terms of what then happens. So you'll be given a caution, therefore, should you not be able to be competent in any of those areas noted in number 1. The caution shall also be given if there's evidence of plagiarism in either the IST assignments or the exegesis. And therefore, it is critical that you don't get yourself into plagiarism. Because if that is the case, the probationer or the ordinand receives an automatic fail with no option to resubmit, and this will result in one's ordination being deferred by a year. That's how serious plagiarism is. That your ordination will be deferred by a year. You will also be given a caution if there is submission of 2 consecutive IST assignments or ordination assignments, or having to resubmit a total of 2 pieces of the required work in the same year. So once you have been asked to submit twice, you will definitely be given a caution. 4, if there's late submission of your assignment or IST project or ordination assignment beyond any reasonable extension, you'll be given a caution. Or 5, if you are found to have behaved in a manner that is unacceptable towards fellow probationers, guest speakers, or those in authority at the January seminar, in IST meetings and screening or readiness committees. So you must be well behaved, in other words. Number 6, being under the influence of alcohol or any other substance for that matter. And number 7, receiving category A rating in a probationer mentoring committee. And so, if then that is the case, you must remember that if no pastoral commission has been instituted, please, because you have behaved in a manner that is unbecoming, and your PMC has given us a report that your behavior is unbecoming, you will therefore have a pastoral commission instituted. But be warned, if no pastoral commission has been instituted by your bishop, the director of EMU will request the relevant bishop, together with the superintendent and the SSS, to institute a pastoral commission. And the report from either of these pastoral commissions is to be submitted to the SSS for submission at the next EMU General Committee. And EMU may then require further intervention. So these, even with the caution, please note that there are serious consequences. So don't say to yourself it's a caution, because a year may be taken away from you and your ordination is deferred. Or you may even face a pastoral commission. So it's important that you then observe what is expected of you. When do we give a warning? We give a warning if there's an accumulation of 2 cautionable offenses. We give a warning if avoidance of a recommended intervention issued by the EMU when cautioned has not been adhered to. And so we will make sure that you get a warning if there's a negative exit formation certificate from SMMS. I spoke about the seamless formation. It is a serious offense not to behave well at seminary and think that because you have left seminary and you're coming into circuit, that formation has been forgotten. It will follow you up until you prove yourself to be competent. And this applies specifically to the probationers for word and sacrament. But of course then, point 1 and 2 apply to the diaconate as well. We shall give you a final warning if there's accumulation of 3 cautionable offenses. 2, a cautionable offense while on a warning. 3, if again there's continued avoidance of recommended interventions issued by EMU when you have been given a warning. Oh, friends, please also note that there's something called discontinuance. When you have accumulated 4 cautionable offenses, or a cautionable offense while on a final warning, or failure to meet all the requirements for ordination within 7 years, or being found guilty of the breach of discipline as per our book of order, you shall then be discontinued. And my prayer and hope is that none of these would have to be applied to you, because you would have applied them to yourself before EMU has to apply them. And so it's important then that you make sure that you apply yourself fully as you continue in your formation. And so I want to thank you for this opportunity. And I do think that there's an opportunity for you to be in conversation as probationers in your synods. You can be in conversation with your SSS and your IST convener in terms of understanding those areas that I have highlighted, especially perhaps looking now carefully at the PMCs. And I'd like to offer you an opportunity to look at that, discuss it, and have an understanding and a feel of those forms that you need to be completed by your PMC. They're available on the EMU website, and so if you have a phone that has got enough data, please do download those and look at them and familiarize yourselves with those. The second thing that perhaps I think you can be in conversation with as a group is to understand the self-assessment. And then lastly, if you could make sure that you are in conversation about the rubrics, so that you have a better understanding of them, so that by the time you leave this seminar, at least you have a better understanding of those rubrics. So at least those 3 areas: the PMCs, the self-assessment, as well as the rubrics. Friends, I wish you all the best in your training this year. And may God bless you all as God blesses the congregations where you are ministering. I hope to see you one day, and may God be glorified and praised through your ministry. I thank you, friends.